Ashley?
Hello.
Oh, there we go. I'm getting better at this.
Yeah. You'll be a pro before you know it.
Yeah. Are we on your screen?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Okay. She's leaving me now. Yeah. And and do we have anybody else signing in or you?
No, Reggie is. Nobody else responded back to me when I sent the link.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure exactly who.
Yeah, and I seen something when I was trying to sign on. Bob Newso, his name came up on the screen. I don't know if he's he's going to try to sign in.
Okay.
But it's
yeah, definitely Reggie, because Reggie was at the office when I was leaving, and he said, "I'll see you tonight." So.
Yeah. But Bill said he's making him a co-chairman. Bill's bailing out on me.
He tries to avoid being called a micromanager.
You know what? No, you know what? He's a hands-on person. We don't call them micromanagers. We call them hands-on individuals.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's and it's good to see him show interest into things.
Yep. I know the public likes that. They say that a lot.
Yeah, and especially the past 4 months, I mean, he's been going nonstop, and I mean, just I don't know where he got the energy from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He sure has energy.
Oh, he does. I ride by his house 7 o'clock in the morning. He's he's either gone or he's getting ready to go. And he starts early, and he's just a go-getter. He'll go to the fire calls, and he's out there. Of course, he beat one of our officers to a medical call last week. And they were upset about that. If he's got to go to the call, they should tell us so. They wouldn't go there so quick. No, he'll respond. No, he's just a involved person. That's good.
Yeah. Got stuck in the middle of town this afternoon when I left work. It was a car accident, it looked like.
Oh, I just talked to Dennis about that. Yeah, it was car was pulling out. Hit another car, then then crashed into a parked car, and the 3 cars got damaged.
Yeah.
They were actually going to an accident. We had a complaint up on McDaniel Road. They weren't answering the radio. Michelle said you better go up there, and see what's going on. So I, went up there. Of course, they didn't have the radio, so you turned up, when you put it. They were fine, and but then they had a call for an accident on Cena Road, and then while going there, they had to set a call on Mill Hill Road.
Oh my gosh.
When you go, you don't go out Colebrook Road and go that way home, or you go Maverick Road?
No, so I live in Shokan, so I typically hit Maverick to 28.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I did. Sometimes I'll hit Tannery Brook and go the back way. So I did end up turning around and going that way because I was like, I'm not going to get home in time for this meeting because I had already left late.
Yeah. You have to go Tannery Brook. That'll get you around that. As long as you can get pulled out on 375, sometimes that down there can be a nightmare.
Yeah, it wasn't a nightmare probably because people were held up on Mill Hill, but didn't look too serious, so that was good.
Yeah. And this station called me right now. Excuse me one second.
Okay, sure.
Hello? No, I'm talking to Ashley on a Zoom meeting. We got a meeting very shortly. you say he collapsed on the floor? Oh boy, you know. Okay, you know. So but he didn't get hurt over in court though. Hmm. And and he lived actually ended up on the floor in dispatch. Yeah. Oh my. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But did speak to him and you know give me abreast what's happening with Anthony. So yeah. So you're gonna cover us midnight tonight or did you? So he was doing bail duty over in court. Is that what he was doing? Yeah. Well, you're supposed to do that when he's a powerhouse. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good. Very good. Give me abreast what happens with him, Michelle. Thanks. Sorry, Ashley. And one of our officers, works out at the gym. Apparently, he came to court to prosecute a ticket. Standing in dispatch, coughed, he sneezed, and fell on his knees in dispatch. And the other had to help him to his car. This is the same one that just had a rash just recently, and
Oh,
up to 3 days, and yeah, it's like, oh boy, it's and the guy's got arms on him like a gorilla. I mean, he's if you look at him, he's physically fit. But just falls apart. I mean, easy. So they had to juggle. They had to walk him out to the car, and Dennis Lyman did. And got him in the car and said he's going to the hospital.
oh my gosh.
These guys that go to the gym, they up and more than one of them, get their backs injured.
Mhm.
And they showed it. And, Adam hurt his back. Corey, I think, hurt his back. And there's been different ones over the years.
Right.
Yeah, but it's but she said he was right on his knees, and then I mean, Anthony, you've seen him before. I mean, he's very very well built person. It's a
Yeah, you would not think he was fragile.
yeah, yeah, but he was down on his knees, but more than once, well, he just went to the hospital just 2 weeks ago. But 3 o'clock in the morning, Michelle called me and said, officer's going to the emergency room. I thought he was beat up, or I mean, they up and get problem people out there, but
Right.
a rash, and he
Huh.
Pam loves this stuff when she sees all the
I'm sure she does.
yeah, and she just she doesn't pull her hair out anymore. She just probably shakes her head, and like because it's a lot of paperwork when especially when they say it's job related.
She has a lot of patience, though.
Oh, she does. She she up and needs a bigger desk to put all our paperwork on. Well, she got that table.
Yeah.
Just watch out when she starts to hand the paperwork over to you. Here start doing it.
Yeah.
And but it's a so. So when I have nobody else signing up,
I don't see anybody else yet.
no,
I'm surprised Reggie's not in because he was like, I'm going to make sure I'm there so we can start on time.
yeah, I mean, out of out of 8 members, and but of course, when they were asking about the members last night, and I said, that they forgot to, well, I did mention that Reggie was part of this whole committee.
Right. Anula's coming in.
Usually,
And I don't know if Bill told you, but Nick Henderson's coming in not to represent the press. He wants to possibly be on the committee, I think.
okay.
So he's going to come and sit in and make sure that he has no conflict of interest.
Hi there, Anula.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. How are you doing?
Doing very well, thank you. Nice seeing you.
It's good seeing you.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
And there's Reggie. Hey, Reggie.
Good evening. How you doing?
Very good.
Anula, how are you?
I'm good, Reggie. How are you?
Good. Nice to see your face.
Me too.
Chief, I just found out about an hour ago that I was going to be co-chairing the committee with you, so I didn't have a chance to call you, but tomorrow, Ashley can verify that I just found out.
Yeah, does our supervisor like to surprise you too, right?
He loves surprises.
Oh, yes.
Giving, not receiving.
What did you say?
Giving surprises, not receiving.
Not receiving. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Ashley, for clarification. Yes.
You get them calls at 10 o'clock at night, from them, and with the surprises.
Mm-hmm. And Vanya's here. Hi, Vanya. Is she on mute?
Hi.
Hi.
I would turn on my camera, but I broke my computer a while ago, so the camera doesn't work.
Okay. And did everybody see the email from Bob Nuzzo that he can't make it tonight?
Yes.
And I know Tam Cooper from Family of Woodstock, Wednesday night for her right now isn't going to work, but I'm going to be in touch with her to see when she'll be able to join us, because I think she'll be just a great voice on the committee. So let's see. So that would just mean we're going to be John
And Rachel.
and Rachel
Yeah.
And then Nick Henderson if he's joining.
and Nick, right?
Mm-hmm. And Bill was on the fence about whether he's going to be on or not.
I don't think he's going to be on tonight. I don't think he's going to be on.
Did you guys have a chance to look at our department manual?
Oh, the department manual? No, Ashley just gave me a thumb drive an hour ago. And then Ashley, Bill said that isn't even all of it. But I told him I thought that was, go ahead.
No, I've only been able, because I was having the issues in scanning them in, so I've been typing them up from scratch.
Okay.
So that's probably about, I would say more than half of the book. What's on your drive right now? Yeah,
is what I have. Okay. Then he said I would give you that back, and you'll put the rest on.
Yep.
Okay. And will all of us have those will all of us get
yeah,
those?
I have all of them at the office already loaded.
Okay.
That's one thing I was going to say tonight. If anybody is nearby or if they have a better way of getting them, let me know.
Yeah, if you can mention that when we get, that would be good.
You have, when you do get a chance to look at it, Reggie, I mean, that manual was put in place, in 1997. We've had updates over the years, but some of it is just basic police, material, just normal.
Yeah, Bill was saying there's 20 pages on uniform, so we can start to look through it and see what is not even relevant.
Yeah.
To,
Yeah. And so should we start from the beginning? At some point, not that we're going to do it tonight, but it's but down the road, just start from
yes,
first section, and at least you'll go through section by section, and and bring it up to date.
To see what things are relevant to the work that we're going to do.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Chief, I will do that tomorrow. I'll start looking at it. And I imagine, it may make more sense to sit down with you if you want, if we can figure out a time to do that.
Sure.
Either way.
And you have to that's a good possibility, because Certainly covers a lot of territory, and it's literally you modeled after the sheriff's department. So
Mhm.
so it was brought in and it was it was molded to Woodstock, and and we've been just updating different sections over the years.
So the sections that Ashley's scanning in updated, she has the updated portions of the document?
Yes.
Okay.
I literally gave her a hard copy of the manual.
Okay.
With all the updates. And and so with the changes in what's happening in society today, I mean, we may have to just up and readdress it, just like we did with the unbiased policing. We put it a couple years ago. Last year we up and modified that considerable.
Okay. So I imagine after we're done eventually with our work, then there may be updates to policy, to that manual.
Yes, and I believe actually when we do it, you start to make updates. She can actually we work with us, and make the updates right along.
Okay.
And of course, I know you had experience last year with our unbiased policing policy. That was what 3 months to do a modification. But we put a lot of time into it. And your Human Rights Committee, actually.
The human right. I was going to say didn't you all lead that, Anula, Human Rights Campaign? Human Rights Committee.
With the chief on that, and
Right.
Yeah, but the Human Rights Committee did a lot of work on it. They really you brought out a lot of good points, and we went back and forth, it's a couple of small items, but we made it work though.
absolutely.
I'm just seeing in my email a couple of new messages. I'm wondering if this is Rachel. Let me see. Rachel, I'm available, and yet I feel. Okay, I'm just seeing Tam Cooper saying she's not available to meet on Wednesdays till the end of October. This is disappointing. I'm excited to be a part of the group. Rachel says, I'm available, and yet I feel it's imperative we begin this conversation together. Can we please try a simple calendar scheduling process to see who's available when, and a time that works for all? Doodle as simple as pie. We need all hands on deck. Thoughts? Okay. I don't think we're going to respond to her now because it's 6:04. So,
Is she not going to join, even though she's available?
she may be sending that and still joining. Let me just grab my phone because maybe I'll text her. Here, I'll just text her quickly.
I think we chose Wednesdays because majority of the people could be participating on Wednesdays.
And part of the issue also is then there are other town meetings that are going on. And Ashley, you're a part of some of those other meetings also, right?
All of them.
All, okay, like some. If some means all, then yes. So Ashley's, taking notes for all of those meetings. So, unless we have someone, if we decide to do a different time, I think it's possible to have another Zoom account or that I could maybe get access or in some way. But part of the great thing about having Ashley, other than, having her kind of take notes and help us stay on track, is that if someone's coming in the meeting or if there's an issue, a technical issue, she's here also. So it doesn't mean that there's not another way for us to do it, but it's just really helpful to have Ashley be here to kind of help us navigate, and again, to help us kind of take notes and keep, stay on track. And then I know for me, if like co-chairing with the chief or for any of us, I think we want to be able to be engaged and wonder if I missed that or if I didn't, get that note down. So Chief, do you want to lead us off? Oh, first, I want to say hello to our legislator Hefner.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Hi there, Jonathan.
How's it going, Chief?
Yeah, very good. Thanks for participating. You with everybody else. You in this committee.
Absolutely looking forward to it.
Since you work with the county, Jonathan, is the sheriff's department, they're doing a committee, same thing, what we're doing?
Yeah, we have a county level committee that was formed by Executive Ryan. I appointed our chair of the law enforcement committee, Eve Walter, who is a legislator from New Paltz.
And do we want to, by chance, Jonathan, you incorporate any of these committees all together, or just keep them all separate?
I think every municipality with a department, whether it's a county with the sheriff's department or any town municipality with a department, has to have their own individual
committee. Yes.
Now, the way I read it, and tell me if I'm wrong, I mean, it did seem like they said if you wanted to work with other towns, I did see that was a possibility, but I kind of don't see necessarily the point of that, because I think our issues that we'll identify and discuss will be separate from other towns. So
I agree.
It doesn't mean that we can't have, someone come speak to us from a different group, or, I see Rachel's here. Hi, Rachel.
Hi,
How are you tonight?
I'm very good. I'm a little sad that Tamara's not here because I think
I am too. I am too.
I wonder if we should. I'm having a little bit of a hard time with the part where we took so much time to schedule when we could just use a little scheduling app that like, if we use Doodle, we could get a really clear time and have everybody there. And I think of all of us here, Tamara's probably the closest to the ground besides the chief. And so I really just feel like if we're getting to a place of like having a first meeting, getting to know who we are and what we're here, it really might make sense to have us all here for that first meeting. I just feel strongly about that.
I definitely am with you on one end. I want Tam to be a part of the process too. What you missed before you came on was we were talking about one of the challenges is Ashley she is a secretary for other meetings also. So one thing is she's going to be taking notes and also kind of navigate Zoom. So if there are any issues. So that's really one major issue, is that we have to do it around when she's available.
And
actually, I hope, go ahead.
Didn't Tamara suggest another one of the dates that we all said we could do?
Is that ringing a bell to anyone?
We had another time that she was able to do that. Like, is the Thursday unavailable because Ashley is on another meeting?
Yes, right, Ashley?
Yeah, there's planning board and ZBA on alternating Thursdays every month. So every night on Thursday. It seems in general, everybody's better at the end of the day for their schedule wise. So those meetings typically run from anywhere starting at 6:30 and starting at 7 for 2 hours. So Thursday is just not, I don't see that it would be doable unless we do it earlier in the day, which didn't seem to be available for others.
Right, because that's going to rule out Nuala, probably the chief, I would imagine, John, Rachel. I'm not sure what your daytime schedule is like. I'm on furlough, so I've got a little more flexibility.
And I think Bob Nuzzo said later in the day too.
Go ahead, Rachel.
Yeah, that's a hard one for me. I mean, as far as the day, I can kind of work around some scheduling because I've really pulled back from a lot of my volunteer work that was taking up extra.
Okay.
So I can definitely work around others. I just, we understand why we're here regarding why we've been called here, and then we also understand Woodstock is, the local color is very rainbowed and varied, and Tamara is probably like one of our most important people on this committee. So I really want to work around making sure she's part of this conversation. And in these conversations around, I do a lot of work in racial equity and social justice, lately reform. And one of the things that I just really find super important and we continue to come to is the importance of having everyone at the table, the importance at the table from the get-go, rather than trying to, we're finding we cannot retrofit us into systems that were designed to not have us in them. So in the same respect, I just really want to make a strong point that Tamara is extremely important in this conversation.
Okay.
Do we want to aim for an earlier time on Thursdays? I mean, is that a possibility? Is that what we're looking at?
Could you say that again, Chief? I'm sorry.
And earlier time on Thursdays, if they actually say you're busy, it's going to be a long day for her. But you're like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty flexible, so it doesn't matter what time, what day, but
Ashley, what are you have any initial thoughts? And also, you just don't. It is putting you on the spot, but don't feel put on the spot either. So.
No. I'm like I said, I'm pretty open based on the other meeting schedules. I mean, there are certain boards and committees that I host all of their Zoom meetings, typically on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Mondays, there is a meeting, but there's a possibility of them hosting it themselves. They would just have to make sure the meeting is shorter than an hour so that they don't get cut off.
Okay. So Thursdays, so Ashley, if it was like a 5 o'clock meeting, that would be workable.
Fine. I have planning board and ZBA have both been starting at 7 o'clock. So as long as
Reggie, I have a question. With what frequency are we thinking these meetings would happen? Because Thursdays are difficult. So if we're going to do a last minute switch, then I can't make it for the next 2 weeks. So are we thinking this is going to be a weekly meeting, a monthly meeting, or is that something that we were going to discuss today?
You want to start?
I sort of like to make a recommendation almost every week if we do 1 hour each week. I mean, because it's a lot of material. It's a real important issue in our society, and and so instead of rushing it through, at least we can deal with an hour a week. Then it's not taking 2-3 hour block from somebody every couple of weeks. I mean,
Okay. So we're talking about how early on Thursdays? And does that work for everybody in the group? Even those who are not here? So I could try to get out of work a little bit early, but I do have some commitments for the next 2 weeks that start at 5:30 then. So if we're talking about 4 to 5, that could possibly work.
Yeah, that's something I can probably be flexible this time of year with work. If we go into, I forgot what our deadline is.
Basically March. I mean, it looks like we've got to have a plan by March.
Going into January, when the Senate's back in session, it might be a little bit tougher for me, but at least from now until the end of the year, I can probably make almost each week work.
Okay. Because really, it looks like from January through March is public comment and ratification in the way they kind of guide us on the phases. And that's really phase 4. So I would think much of our work will be really from now until the end of the year to have a plan drafted by the end of the year. And then, like I said, roughly, January, we're looking at a plan and getting public feedback about it and incorporating possibly some of that feedback. So I'm open, and so I'm totally fine with doing a doodle poll and seeing if that, if Thursday, and we're just saying 4 o'clock. Well, yes, 4 o'clock. Are we shooting?
4 to 5 would work.
Yep.
But I'd have a hard stop, just to put that out there.
Okay. 4 to 5.
Go ahead.
in doodle poll.
Yeah. With Tamara, is that going to work with her?
That's what I want to check.
Yeah.
That's what I want to check.
Oh.
Because I do agree with that. She's an important voice. Any thoughts, Chief?
And as far as the time for these meetings, or the next step, Reggie,
The next step.
that the next step is, I mean, we should certainly, you'll take a look and see what our current rules are. We should at least incorporate that into some of our homework assignment. Just to take a section, a section at a time, and just start going through that, and that'll certainly give us direction right there, because that's what police departments do. They should live by is our rule books.
Are you talking about the policy this on the thumb drive, Chief?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So I don't think Rachel was on yet, but basically there's a big procedure and policy manual for town, for law enforcement. And I have maybe almost half of that on a thumb drive. And so not all of that is relevant to the work that we're going to be doing. But I just got this evening, so we're going to look through that. So, Chief, we can't really give that out to anybody. Well, Ashley does have it ready, about half of the manual. So what I was going to do is get with the chief and start to look through that, so we can kind of give a sense of direction for folks, so you're not having to go through the whole thing, to see where we need to focus on. Mm-hmm. Is that most helpful, instead of just saying, here's this thumb drive and figure it out? Or I think it would probably be a little bit better for everybody's time if we kind of already go through and pare down the things that we're going to focus on.
Because we can certainly pull out about the sections of use of force, use of the firearms, taser, pepper spray. When we can use it, and these are all policies that we can pluck out of that manual, and certainly dissect and review it, and make changes, if need be. The taser, pepper spray, the firearms, this is certainly all stuff that, we've certainly been updating over the years, but it's but things have certainly changed, with the requirements for the training of officers, we've all seen that the de-escalation, tactics, and that's all part of, that should be built into our manual, that it required training for the officers, but we can address that when we get to them sections, and do you want to meet tomorrow afternoon, Reggie, by chance, and just roughly go over, our policy,
Sure. Can I give you a call after this meeting is over and we can figure out time?
Yep.
Okay.
Wondering.
Go ahead.
Rachel. There's Rachel.
You're muted, Rachel. You're muted.
All right. Happy to join you tomorrow if that helps at all.
Okay. That's fine with me.
So I was wondering what our actual limitations were, like as citizens, for the information that we're allowed to have. Like, will we be able to look at complaints that were filed against the Woodstock Police Department?
The governor should certainly open our personnel files, so there's complaints, they are available, if certain officers, they can be foiled, they're not closed anymore, so the personnel records are certainly open. And supervisors, bookkeeper, and supervisor, we spent hours, just about 2 months ago, you're going through each officer's personnel file, because we already had foils, after the governor, you made them changes, with it, I believe it was a 50A, rules, and we up in it was time consuming, but I got to be thankful, we didn't have a whole lot of complaints. We do get complaints, but it's not we've been ahead of most police departments, years ago, working with our citizens, and so, and we really, strive to continue to do that, so, there's complaints out there, some of them, unjustified, but, I mean, it all depends, if you want to look at them, I believe that Bill's got them on a, on a disc up there at his office, so in case somebody else wanted to file me, if that stuff would all be available.
Okay.
I was also wondering if we had any information about local places or other towns like about our size that have done reform recently, so that we can model and see like before and after or anything.
I looked at my emails today. Actually, town of Ulster, they're asking for input from what other agencies are doing. So I think we're all in the same step process. We're just reviewing all our policies, making sure that that they're up to the current expectations of today's society.
And to follow up on what the chief said, I actually meet with other human rights commissioner, those folks who run other human rights commissions. So Dutchess, Ulster, Westchester, and a couple of more. And they do have some models and ideas that they put out there. So some of them are behind us, some of them are a little bit ahead of us. And so I do have some information about some of the sub-teams that they formed and some of the areas that they looked at, and also how they approached the public and got feedback from the public. So from time to time, if there's any check-in that could be helpful, I'm happy to reach out to those folks and get their input.
Yeah, Anula, just following up on that, especially about the public input. I know that's going to be a piece of this, and tonight in talking to Bill and Ashley, we were talking about an email because we're going to look at a survey to send out to folks in town. We're thinking of just having an email address for this group, so it's not anyone's separate email, that it just goes to one place. And we just needed to come up with a name for it, something that's going to be simple, obviously, for, that's accessible, that we can give out, and that we would put on our Facebook website. We would talk about it at town board meeting. Possibly, I would imagine we'd do something in the newspaper, like in Hudson Valley One. Also, just to get the word out, because we do want to get feedback about what folks are experiencing, what they have experienced in the past, their hopes, their vision, their thoughts, to have them be heard also.
That sounds great. So is the plan for this to be all online, or is there any thought to folks who might not have access to online surveys? And are we going to do that in multiple languages?
Great questions.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I feel it's really important that we make a strong effort to get the word out in every way we can. There was a conversation I had recently with a committee member from another committee, and I asked the question, was there regarding the housing committee, was there an effort to have people of the global majority, aka people of color, involved in the get-go? And it was like, well, there was a little word put out, and there was a little, but there wasn't a specific effort made, and there also wasn't, like, a lot of us didn't necessarily hear about it, people who aren't tuned specifically. So I think in this case, it's definitely important to let people know. Also, I do have Monday nights from 5 to 7, I have a radio show that a lot of people who don't, on 104.1, a lot of people who don't have internet listen to that station in this community because it has emergency services, etc. So I'm also very happy to host as many open roundtables during that Monday 5 to 7 time during the next, at any point for any subject. But in this case, if people want to add that, if we want to add that to the conversation, that's another way to get out there to people who aren't on the web.
and it might even be a way, Rachel, that if people want to even put questions out there, not that we may be able to answer them in that moment, but to just even have their voice to say, okay, we're on the same boat tonight, and if you have questions you'd like to ask or things you'd like to bring forward, this is the time you can call in. So that would
Right.
be great. That's great.
Yeah.
So do we want to, can we just come up with a simple name, at least for our email? What's the name of this group officially? The Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative. It's not going to be that. I want to whittle that down some. Any thoughts?
How about the
Police-
police reform? The town of Woodstock police reform. Just drop the New York State.
What are we doing it on? Gmail or on
It's
the
it's
town
our
of Woodstock?
town- It's on our town's
So
email
it would
service.
be
so
at woodstock.com.
It'll be at woodstockny.org.
Okay, so I would say police reform at woodstockny.org.
I agree.
Good.
That makes the most sense.
Everybody's in agreement on that? Police Reform at woodstockny.org. That may be our easiest decision yet, so.
Okay, so it's police reform at woodstockny.org.
Mm-hmm. And there's
And
no
also-
dot, Ashley, after Woodstock? Sorry, Rachel.
Yeah, it's well, no, there's no dot. So it's Woodstock, the letter N, the letter Y.
Right,
.org.
.org.
Yep.
Okay, Rachel, sorry, you're about to say something.
One other really quick question was, if we're going to do a doodle poll, when you do a doodle poll, you just go to doodle.com
Mm-hmm.
and you pick a time, a day, and you can pick multiple days. So if Ashley says, these are my times that are available,
She did.
5 times, 3 times,
Mm-hmm.
but on this form, it'll stack in a page, and every person goes in and they put their name in the top, and they
Yeah.
go click, 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 and then we have a stack, and then we see it, and you can just grab it. Actually, it'll be like bing bang, and you go, this is the day we're all available, this time, and you can set your times in there, and it's super easy, and then there's no back and forth.
Mhm.
You could just like see who did it.
Yeah, we can see who responded and the numbers and all that. Yeah.
And
Okay.
it's super easy. And they'll be like, well, you want to do the extra, just you don't need to do extra and become a member.
Mm-hmm. It's free.
Really easy. And they'll give you a link, and you can just send us all the link, and we can just go to it and fill it out and be done by tomorrow, probably,
Okay. Yep, I'll look at that.
Okay, and then Ashley, I can talk to you tomorrow. We can just look at your times again
Okay.
tomorrow. I know you're not going to be in the office, right? But I can email
No,
you.
I'm not.
Okay. Wait, are you off, Ashley? Because I don't want to.
No, my
still on.
son
Okay.
has school.
Okay, no, I
Tomorrow,
understand.
so
You don't
we're
have to-
settling into that routine.
Yes.
But I am available, so
Okay.
if you want to, you can reach out.
Okay. So I would say, and Chief, I mean, if anybody has any other thoughts, between now and then, so the doodle poll will be going out, so we can really try to get everyone here, and hopefully have that all squared away by the end of the week. And also, so has everybody really had a chance to go through this entire thing, all 120 some pages? Okay, so go ahead,
No.
Rach. No, okay.
Uh,
Thank you for your honesty. All right, so,
I haven't either, Reg. Sorry.
okay, so if we can just commit to at least, so honestly, the beginning of this, I mean, it talks about the whole purpose of what we're doing. It explains a lot of terms. It kind of asks questions to get us thinking about our own town and the work we should be doing. So it is a nice document that it really does lay things out in a really clear way. Then when you get to the back, it kind of explains the phases, like page 109, or page 103 talks about us making our own plan, right? So I think that's really not that long. That's only like from page 103 to 109. So definitely looking at that piece. But if we can commit to at least looking at that planning section and at least trying to skim, obviously it's not a test on this, it's too much information, but just to be comfortable with at least what's in here, and to start thinking about our goals for the work that we'd like to do with each other. Maybe next week sharing reasons why we were interested in being here and what our hopes and goals are, what our vision is for our town. I think in looking through this, and just even looking at our nation, our world really, but really our country, this is a pivotal time. And I'm grateful that I live in Woodstock. While I'm grateful that I live in Woodstock and that I don't see a lot of things that I'm seeing on television in other towns, there's still work. Like, no town is above looking at its own stuff, right? And even like Bob sent an email, which is a great email, and Bob says, you know, he hasn't had this experience. Well, for Bob or anyone else, your experience is not everyone's experience. So if you have a great experience, that's wonderful. But we also have to be open to hearing other experiences also, and other stories, right? So I don't want us to, as grateful as I am to be in Woodstock, I don't want to have rose-colored lenses that there's not anything that we can do to make things better. So again, in preparation for next week and thinking about just what we'd like to see in this town, I think that would be a good starting point.
I agree, and I also would love to just add one other request in looking at this. Mm-hmm. We're in a time where we're trying to kind of pick up pieces of the systems that were built and embedded in places we don't really want to be right now. And so because a lot of those systems we're looking at, pardon my language, settler colonialist methods of building systems. This is what we're about to look at. And we're also about to look at this through the lens of the governor. And I haven't looked at it all, but I have skimmed through it and I have begun to read it. So I think we're in an amazing place. And one of the things that in the work that I do with my community out in Oakland, I work with a restorative justice focused architecture firm. And what we're looking at when we look at police reform, community reform, social justice, environmental justice, housing instability, all of the different economic development, all of these things, they're all interconnected. And so as we're looking at this conversation, we could be just picking apart the police department, but that's not actually going to bring us to like the next phases of how Woodstock's going to grow, as we're really dealing with a major onslaught. We don't even know what's hit us yet.
What it's going to look like, right?
We don't know what it's going to look like. This is way heavier and way deeper than 9/11. And so I just invite us as we look at this to really be considering that the work that Chief Clayton, the work that you have to do really depends a lot on, and the reform that needs to be taken really depends a lot on a holistic approach to how we look at this. And so if we just pick apart the police department, we're missing like a major opportunity. I'm not saying that I think we need to and I know that I've already mentioned that I think it's very important that we have a reapproach and a relook at the comprehensive plan post-COVID, but I think I'm not trying to wrangle us into that. But what I am trying to really bring us to look at is that this is a systemic across the community conversation that shouldn't just fall on the chief and the police force, because a lot of what falls into your hands, Chief, is actually systemically running throughout the community. So I just want to ask and invite us to really widen our view on this and look at why some of the issues that have to fall into the hands of the police department are coming up.
Sure. And Rachel, I think, that's part of what we hear. I think if we were just putting it on, if the governor were just putting it on law enforcement, it'd be the chief having to look at his own, policy and procedures and come up with something. But I think that's why we're all here now, is because that scope has been broadened, right? To have folks that are in the community have voice to it and weigh in on it,
And
So,
not only that, but actually what I'm saying is not just ask what the community needs of the police, ask what the people in the community are needing of the municipality, of not just the police, because if we leave it to how are the police, we know we need to know that the police are being trained properly, that we have all of these systems in place. But as we're looking at this,
mhm.
it's not just to ask the community how the police are treating them. I'm asking us to consider, while we approach that conversation, which is why we're here, to look at the wider conversation around what it is that brings us to where we are when we need policing, quote unquote. Because that is going to lead us into other avenues that will need addressing, which are very true, and will also support in relieving the chief and the police force of some of the work that is on their hands. So I'm asking us to look at not just what does the community need from the police force, what does the community need from the municipality and the police force in order to lessen the police force's work, and also to support the community in helping to retain our young people, right? And a list of other things.
And I think some of that, from what I'm reading through this, was in there. They bring up even those questions. So it's right on track, of course. But I'm in agreement with that no, we can't just look, not picking apart our department and looking in a broader way. So I'm with you on that. I would imagine most everybody else.
If I could just say one thing, the bail reform that we experienced January 1st, we're not a community that wants to see everybody go to jail. It never was, never should be. But there are people that are literally, we have you help them survive by getting them help. You'll incarcerating them when they're continually becoming intoxicated, and now we stick a ticket in their pocket, and we can't even bring them back to the station because it's a non-custodial arrest. It's a violation. All with a bail reform, and we feel that we're not doing justice to these people to get them help, and to get them, even if it's off the street, the judges in the days past, used to go, and you send them to jail, send a release order the following day, to get them out, get them dried out from the alcohol or drugs, and they could get a psych evaluation while they're at jail, get a decent meal, get away from their friends, and that's all been taken out of our hands, and when you drive through our village, it's only a small village, but it's the same ones they're time consuming, with us, dealing with, on a daily basis, and it's alcohol, is a bad thing, and we don't feel we're doing justice when we pick them up out of the street, and we said, get them off to the side. We take them to the hospital, and the hospitals don't even want to deal with them, and mental health services in this county, I mean, we all know that they moved over to Westchester, and and it's just a shame, as a police department, those options, were taken away from us, and we experienced that. Reggie, you were part of that, that committee that went around for the homeless people in the wintertime, and luckily we didn't have that many, but but we used to get people off the street. The jail's not the place to go, but at least they could get some helping hand. They could get public assistance, get them dried out, get them looked at in medical treatment. And I feel bad that these people are literally left out here unattended now.
Yeah, and this is one of our biggest issues. Yeah, like it shouldn't be you to be like, okay, 3 hots in a cot, let's see if we can get them out of there, but that's not going to work. It hasn't been working, and it's also leading into other way more difficult systemic issues in the community. And so that's exactly what I'm pointing to, is how do we begin to really address those issues and not just leave it to the police to feel like it's up to them to figure out how to get them to the hospital and the police.
Right.
I mean, right? I mean, that was the thing. for me, like, I'll never forget that night when I was, I don't know, 15, 16, and we found Chris in a puddle behind the house. There used to be a really deep, thick, deep, muddy puddle, and he had drank like a 151 and he was gonna die. And if Milton, Uncle Milty, wasn't on the front, like sitting right there, he would have died that night if we hadn't found him and didn't trust that we could bring him to, you know, to Uncle Milty to bring him to, and then he spent, so, but that is not working, and it's not
Right.
okay. And so this is where we have a really good, amazing opportunity to look, because I believe that once we start to dig into this, and, you know, I have different issues and concerns around different things that, for instance, James Quigley, how he relates in different areas, but like he's a pretty focused and mindful supervisor. And I feel like we're going to come up with these local communities. We have Saugerties, Phoenicia, Kingston, Ulster. These are all closely, we will probably find ourselves collaborating with them, because at the end of the day, a lot of the services that will need to be enacted and could be collaborated between municipalities.
Yeah.
And when I have a relationship with the former DEA of Manhattan, of New York. His name Bob Stutman. And I tried to bring him in after we had like 3 or 4 deaths of young people in the same year. It didn't work out. There wasn't funding for that. But when I spoke to him about our community, he knows the community because he was the DEA, head of DEA in New York in the 80s and into the 90s. And he's now doing a lot of reformative work around instead of incarceration, like treatment over incarceration. Mm-hmm. And he's working throughout the country. And he immediately said, you will have to connect for your drug conversation to support the kids here with New Paltz, Saugerties, Kingston, Rondout. And he just named them, like he had them in his head from all that way back then. And he was like, and you'll have to come together with those communities in order to address this issue. So that also rings for me here as we're having this conversation, that these committees might at some point want to consider coming together and talking and at least learning what we're coming up with as we work.
Yeah, at the county level, Jonathan, aren't we doing a lot more with the mental health services? You go at the county level.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest resources for a town like Woodstock has been the investment in the mobile mental health unit, as well as the collaboration between that unit and the Department of Health and Mental Health with Sheriff Figueroa, and the work he's doing in the sheriff's office, to where it's a more collaborative effort to ensure that those services are on scene and that you close that time gap, especially as I believe the chief mentioned. We're facing a very difficult situation with Health Alliance's decision not to restore the mental health beds as well as detox beds at Kingston Hospital that were removed at the time under the guise of ensuring maximum surge capacity at the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic. And then they turned around and have now said they will not be returning those beds. So I think mental health services and community policing go side by side and are crucial in this conversation we're going to have. I think both Sheriff Figueroa and Executive Ryan understand that. On the countywide, those services are available, but we should also make sure we're having that discussion as we proceed through this process, I believe.
Okay. Does anyone want to add anything else before we wrap up for the night?
On the survey, that we're gonna put out there, should we, for next week, at least have all the members put some questions together, that should be onto it.
Yes.
And even if it's 5 questions each or 10, or you'll just I don't think anybody wants to fill out a 50 question, survey, but, but at least keep it brief and, and to the point, and,
Mm-hmm.
and we should hopefully get a good response from the public.
Yes, and Rachel, Tam will definitely get that. I'll reach out to her, and she'll get the doodle poll too. Everybody will get that, but she'll definitely have the opportunity to have input.
Oh, yeah, I'm just saying exactly what Jonathan was just bringing up is part of why it's so
why Tamara's important. I understand.
in this
Okay.
conversation
I got
at
you.
the beginning.
I got you. Okay, so that doodle poll.
And then, so
Okay.
you're talking about the doodle poll will go out, and that's what you're talking about, the survey, or the survey is something that you're talking about the survey we'll be building for the community?
For the community, yes.
Right, okay.
We're starting to even put questions out there for us to discuss at the next meeting as we start to feel through those. So if everybody could.
Oh, you want us to put questions out to the community between now and then? No.
Questions that are going to come to us. We're going to look at the questions first. We're not just going to send them out. We're just going to, amongst ourselves first, start to generate
Got you.
questions.
Okay.
Okay, and we will look for other input, for other feedback. Ashley.
Yeah.
I was just going to say part of the booklet is that there should be an annual survey that goes out to the public. So every year you can kind of look and see if there are any changes in what the public is looking for, or what they need, if anything changes from year to year. So I think the idea is to get questions to put on the survey that we could, in general, send out annually to get feedback from the public.
And I imagine this will be the first time we've ever had something like this. Anybody? Chief,
I don't remember anything.
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever known of it to happen.
Okay.
The document has a lot of questions already formulated. So are we talking about just pulling out what we feel is most important, or are we talking about kind of reinventing these questions?
Not reinventing those questions. This can be a guide for us.
Okay.
But also there may be other questions. So certainly that's why it'll be important for folks to look through and see what's in there. So like you're saying, we're not coming up with questions that are already there. I do feel like this document they've done a good job of putting some things out there and putting out the information to kind of get the questions to get the wheels turning. But there may be questions that are unique to us, to Woodstock, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. It won't be all, they won't have, and like I said, a lot of the stuff they talk about, we're not necessarily dealing with this in town, thankfully. But there are other things that we are dealing with, which we haven't talked about, or we haven't even heard about all of it yet. So this will be, again, trying to get something that's for us, for our town. Questions.
I think something that I also want to invite us to do is really work as hard as we can to step out of the part where we want to sidestep any of this really being a part of our conversation and the work we have to do, because we are super fortunate to have such a community oriented police force for so many years. And there is so much work to do, and then in having this opportunity, I think it's really important for us to look at those questions, because they will also support those people who don't live with the perspective that some of us on this call do live with.
Sure.
And also, it will assist in bringing that up. So I really don't want to skip over too much.
Well, just to clarify, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not saying we need to sidestep or ignore. I'm not saying that.
No, I get that. But I think that because of the community that we live in, and we do have a lot of sidestepping that happens. I'm not saying in this circle per se, but I'm saying that part of this is going to give us an opportunity to really get some perspective that Woodstock doesn't have very much of, that will also allow us to look at those places where, like, in very small ways, we're not covering some of those bases, because like maybe we're not out there having certain feeling, more overt behavior showings or whatever comes up.
Right. And
it's super important that we pick. I like the idea that we have a year to pick through this, or 10 months, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
8 months.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. And I think also we want to make sure that the things that we appreciate about town right now, that however long the chief is here, whoever comes in behind him, that it's very clear. It's clear when you apply for a job in Woodstock. It's clear if you're going to be promoted to chief. That what we stand for and what we tolerate, and that'll be also in writing, but that will just be a known thing. So I think, again, could the things that we've seen ever happen here? I mean, I'd like to say no, but you never say never. And we certainly want to make sure that those things don't happen here and that we plant the seeds, so it's just not even a question. So I'm with you on that.
And it did happen here once.
What did happen here?
We ended up with a crazy chief who freaking armed this place.
It has happened before.
Asked the chief. The guy was totally out of his mind. He armed us with so much stuff. As soon as Harry Baldwin got in, he got rid of it. But they were like AK-47s. That place was armed to the teeth, and he was totally corrupt. He was like a New York chief that ended up in here.
Okay.
How long was he in there for? Like 6, 7, 8 months, or a year?
Are we talking the guy from the sheriff's department? That came.
The guy that was here, it was like 93, maybe 93, 94, was it?
No, he was here for about 5.5 years.
Was it that long?
Paul Raganese.
Raganese. There you go. So yes, it could happen here. You could end up with.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That. I'm saying that's why I said never say never. We don't want, we don't want to go back to that. And so I'm with you. Anybody else before we go?
I just wanted to say one thing that Supervisor McKenna was pointing out, and as you guys are kind of reading through this book, noticing it as well. A lot of the towns that they use for examples are in thousands in numbers of population, very different from Woodstock. So one thing he was saying was kind of keeping that in mind. I mean, I think the smallest population was like 60,000, which is 10 times the size of Woodstock. So just keeping that in mind for some of the things in this book as you're reading through it, because a lot of them are.
Well, sure. Like we have 2 officers on, right? We have 2 full-time officers on in 3 different shifts, right? Right, Chief?
Yes.
Right. So yes. So certainly the resources are, compared to what we're seeing in the book, are certainly very, very different. But again, I think, so yes, that may limit us in certain ways, but then also because of what this town is, there are other possibilities too. They may not work in larger cities. So, so anybody else before we go? If not, I'm going to say thank you.
Thank you.
And looking forward to working with you all.
Thanks for facilitating us, Reg.
Thank
You are
you.
welcome. And everybody's got I think everybody on this call has my telephone number. So reach out, and we'll get those emails going with the doodle poll and the questions.
Thank you.
Okay?
Have a good night.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
Okay.
Thank
Talk to you in the morning.
you, Ashley, very much.
You're welcome.
And I'll call you, Chief.
Yes. Do you have my cell phone or home number? I mean, but either one works.
I got both. Okay. Great.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you, Reggie.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too.